5 games with the biggest names in basketball on the court.
Zion takes on the Heat. Steph squares off against Giannis, and KD and Kyrie head to Boston.
Then it's LeBron versus Luka, followed by Kawhi and the Clippers against the Nuggets.
Greeny, all of the games on ESPN and ABC.
And Get Up and First Take will get your day started, telling you what to watch for and what to expect.
A hoops Christmas to remember, starting with Get Up and First Take.
That should be fun. The question is, what team will James Harden be on then? He and the Rockets beat the Spurs in a preseason game last night, for what that's worth. He had 20 points, 9 assists, played 27 minutes. But, of course, all the headlines around Harden continue to center around his desire to be traded out of Houston. And if you missed it last night, our Adrian Wojnarowski, along with Ramona Shelburne, had a very big story on ESPN.com about the very latest. Woj, good morning. Let's make sure everyone is up to date.
Morning, Greeny. Well, Greeny, as Ramona Shelburne and I reported, the Rockets are really expanding their conversations beyond those 2 preferred destinations of Harden, Brooklyn and Philadelphia. They're starting to gather more interest, we're told, in both the Eastern and Western conferences, of teams, because Harden has 2 years left on his deal, who'd be willing perhaps to even trade for him without an assurance he would stay long term. But there's more and more engagement of teams in both conferences with Houston. And while Brooklyn and Philly are still, potentially viable, and I think the door is opened to the possibility that James Harden could land somewhere either than where he specifically wants to play.
Yeah, so let's look at this in terms of a timeline. Next Wednesday is when the Rockets play their first regular season game. How would you assess, at this point, the likelihood that he's traded before that?
Well, one thing's for certain, Greeny, Houston would like to get this done sooner than later. They would like to, listen, this is a pall over the entire organization. Their new head coach, Stephen Silas, as he tries to implement his program there. But they've got to find the right deal. This is too important for their organization long term. And they have a checklist of what they would like in a deal. And listen, you don't always get everything you want in one of these trades, but they've got to really maximize value. And that's going to be a really good young player and draft picks at the very least as they comb the league. And one thing too, Greeny, they're looking at scenarios, 3-team scenarios, where perhaps a particular team doesn't exactly have the player they want, but they can help go get that player in a bigger deal.
Yeah, the Brooklyn Nets may need someone like that to help them out. I found, we're reading your story again. Woj and Romano have that story up right now on ESPN.com. Woj, thank you very much. Outstanding. We will check in with you again if there's any further news.
The Rockets have expanded their trade circle. According to our Adrian Wojnarowski and Ramona Shelburne, the team is looking beyond the Nets and the Sixers for James Harden, and they're met with interest from teams who say they don't care if they're able to sign Harden long term. They'll be happy with a Harden rental. Keep in mind, Harden could become a free agent next season. Harden played last night against the Spurs, scored 20 in 27 minutes. Steph Curry did a few better than that. Warriors-Kings, Curry had 29 for the second straight game. Hasn't lost much of his touch either, knocked down 6 of his 13 three-point attempts. Bradley Beal, first taste of the preseason, Wizards and Pistons. Beal scored 10 on a bit of a rusty shooting night, just 36%. In 16 minutes. And the Clippers didn't win a single preseason game, despite the fact that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard played in all 3 of them. Maybe it's the fact that thus far the Clippers have actually been outscored by nearly 4 points per 100 possessions when those two share the floor. Hashtag it's the preseason. George did score 16. Kawhi added 13. Here's the thing. The next time we see the Clippers, the games will actually count. It's Tuesday night, opening night, against the Lakers. But while we're on the Clippers, the NBA is now investigating just how that team got Kawhi. So here's the deal. Johnny Wilkes has filed a lawsuit against the Clippers and Jerry West, saying they owe him $2.5 million. Who's Wilkes? He says he's best friends with Kawhi's uncle, and we all know the role that Uncle Dennis plays in Kawhi's life. The lawsuit claims Wilkes helped persuade Kawhi to sign with the Clippers over the Raptors. As for West and the Clippers, they say this lawsuit is absolutely baseless, and Kawhi says it has nothing to do with him. Quote, nobody swayed my mind.
All right, Boardman stays loyal. Elsewhere in the Western Conference, T-Wolves over the Mavs in Dallas. Minnesota has to like what it saw from Anthony Edwards. First overall pick, putting up 17 points, 3 boards, 3 dimes in 26 minutes off the bench. He was 3 of 8 from distance, but he also played some nice defense on Luka Doncic in the first quarter. Karl-Anthony Towns had 20 in the Wolves win.
Also in the strong game category, LaMelo Ball. Hornets beat the Magic 123-115, and Ball scored more than he has in any other preseason game, 18 off the bench. He was also 4 of 9 from 3.
It is on to bowl season for the top 2 teams in the Sun Belt. Number 12, Coastal Carolina. Number 19, Louisiana. They will wrap up the season as co-champs in that conference. This after the Sun Belt title game canceled after a positive COVID-19 test in the Chanticleers program. Coastal will finish 11-0, first team in Sun Belt history to do that. So we're going to have to see how the rest of championship weekend shakes out before the Chanticleers know where they are headed for their bowl game. But, I mean, they're still an amazing story this season.
It is an amazing story, but think about the New Year's Six potential they had being idle now.
Yeah.
Like,
that's tough.
That's real tough. Those are your half-hour headlines.
Nets visiting the Celtics tonight in the preseason finale for both teams. This one coming a week before these two will meet again in Boston for a regular season game on Christmas Day. Kyrie Irving missing all 3 of the Nets games against his former team a year ago, but he has played this preseason. Malika Andrews now looking ahead to Brooklyn's year.
Another bad shot there. They threw it right out of bounds. The Nets, they're in a world of hurt.
The Nets trudged through a turbulent 2019-20 season with their star signings largely MIA. Kyrie Irving missed months with a mysterious shoulder injury. Kevin Durant was sidelined for the year as he worked to rehabilitate his torn Achilles.
It was good to finally get back out there and start playing up and down again.
But now, Brooklyn is back with their championship aspirations in tow.
Irving. Oh, no. Oh, yes!
General manager Sean Marks' offseason objective was to round out their roster with role players like Landry Shamet and Jeff Green. They re-signed sharpshooter Joe Harris to play alongside Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert, who are both coming off career years. They brought in head coach Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, whose 7 seconds or less Suns changed the NBA. Now the goal is to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy and make that the new Brooklyn way.
We're trying to contend and win a championship. I think it's something that we're not going to shy away from.
Finally, it is time to put the last 2 seasons of signings to the test.
Irving, step back 3. Oh!
This may have been the shortest break in league history, but for the Nets, this season opener has been a long time coming.
All right, Malika Andrews, thank you. Brooklyn making no secret about its plans to contend here. They're plus 500 to win the NBA title at Caesars William Hill. That's tied with the Bucks for the second shortest odds in the NBA. Lakers are currently the favorite to repeat. And our friends in the desert have also set the Nets over-under win total at 45.